Hi, I'm Edward O'Neill. I'd like to welcome you back to week 2 of Introduction to Learning Science. The topic this week is research and some of the social and cultural factors about learning. In a way, you could say the big broad topic for the week is fairness. What does it mean to be a good professional as an instructional designer? And it's really an extension of being a good person, which is to say treating other people fairly. You'll be reading a lot of research in this course. And so we're starting off by helping you understand research methods and some of the ethical obligations around research. And we want you to read about the theory of learning, and we want you to know how research works, because you should know how knowledge is made. You should be able to base your recommendations to clients on scientific information and not just a guess or a hunch or an opinion. It's part of your professional responsibility to do that. Now, instructional design work is not research, it's not pure or basic research, but it can be thought of as applied research, and you can use some of the same methods that scientific researchers do in order to verify that learning has happened. Overall, you have a responsibility to treat people fairly, whether it's your client or scientists who've published research or learners. And then before you even worry about the learning experience itself, you have to recognize that learners come to us shaped by the culture they live in and social factors. And you want to be able to design learning experiences which are not grossly unfair, at a minimum, and highly fair at the other extreme. So what use is knowing about research methods for you as a practitioner? Well, how are you going to know if learning happens? Let's say a college comes to you, they want help with an internship program. They would really want to know, did someone learn something in this internship program? How are you going to do it? There's the old-fashioned controlled experiment. It was kind of a gold standard in science. You randomly pick two groups. Some people take the internship and some people don't. But nobody runs internships that way. So how are you going to find out if people learned if you can't measure them against a baseline of some sort? You could still do some kind of A/B testing. People in the internship program could have slightly different experiences in the way they were run and organized, and then you could kind of compare the results. You would have to make sure you were being fair to the students, that no one was really being deprived of an opportunity because method A was used with one group and method B was used with another. So in terms of collecting evidence, let's say for this externship or internship program, how are you going to know it works? What kind of facts and figures do you need? Do you need to interview people or observe them? That is, are you going to have quantitative data, facts and figures, or qualitative data about people's experiences? Maybe you can't run a controlled experiment, but maybe you can compare the experiences of this year's students to last year's students. In terms of research and some of the ethics and limits around it, research is someone's intellectual property. It's made to be shared and used, but you have to use it respectfully. You have to credit the researchers. Their time and labor went into it, and they want their names attached to it. Research also has ethical guidelines around it in terms of, is the data accurate? You know, did you capture this information in a way that was, say, neutral if it's supposed to be purely quantitative, or did you let some bias creep into the process? Even though you're not a researcher, that's important for you in collecting evidence of learning as well. In addition, researchers, you should know, have to follow protocols around what's called human subject research. That is, you're dealing with actual people, and they need to be respected and treated respectfully. For instance, you can't do research on people. You could do it on paper, but not on people, if it's going to cause them harm. So if you think about your internship program, you can't give some people training and not other people training within the internship program, because you're depriving someone of a benefit, which is tantamount in a certain way to harming them. Another aspect of research is informed consent. You have to tell people you're doing this research and why you're doing it. Now, as a practitioner, you don't have that same kind of obligation, but if you're giving people the options of learning in various ways, say within the internship program, they should know that choice is happening. And it takes away the possibility of you doing a controlled experiment, but you're treating the learners more fairly. So even if you're not publishing scholarship, we can use some of these ideas and guidelines that researchers use in order to be sure that we're being respectful of our learners. Learner privacy is another issue of this sort. If you're working in higher education, there are very specific rules around what kind of information of learners is private and what's not. And then finally, the social and cultural factors that we want to talk about this week. The social factors, you could say, boil down to inequality. People in most societies have unequal access to resources, and so whoever your learners are, they may be a very homogeneous group, but they may be a heterogeneous group, and how are you going to make sure that you're not systematically disadvantaging one group over another? You'll look at a lovely piece of research done on this by an undergraduate, and so it's nice to see that undergraduates can do original research and publish it. I think you'll be impressed with that article. The cultural factors is the culture you come from, the society you live in has certain norms, and one culture is different from another culture. And when people come to us, they're oftentimes shaped by that culture. So if you think of yourself, for instance, would you sacrifice your own desires if the group you were in wanted something else? Or would you go along with the group? Or would you say, I'm sorry, I don't want that, I'm going my own way? Do you see superiors in work situations, for instance, more as equals? Do you feel you should be on friendly terms with them? Do you look at risk as a good thing or a bad thing? Do you expect women to be nurturing and men to be dominant? These are 4 dimensions of culture that have been extensively studied around the world, and how you answer those questions is not merely personal, it's very much shaped by the culture that you live in. So if you think about this internship program, if you want to help people design this internship program, you want to make sure they're treating the students equally in terms of things like gender and social class. If you think about the cultural factors, if you have people working as a group, or if you have people from one culture going into another culture, what kind of problems are going to come up? If you have an American going into a situation in which authority and hierarchy are more important and more respected, and the Americans are more casual and friendly in their social relationships, is that going to cause a problem? How are you going to structure work for students who are risk averse? Because people from some cultures tolerate risk much less well, or like much less risk than others. What happens if you have female students in non-traditional roles? Depending on the culture of the learners, that could be troubling for some people in the group, and if the group dynamics are important, then you have to think about that. So you're not doing basic research in this class, but you're applying it. You're getting more oriented towards getting oriented towards how you treat people respectfully as an instructional design professional. And you'll learn about inequality and differences in cultural style. So in the learning you design, you treat people respectfully, people have an equal opportunity, and you can potentially downplay or even make people more aware of cultural differences that could otherwise impede learning. So that's what's happening this week, and I think you'll find it interesting.